Hi, so today we are taking a look at chapter 14, which talks about homeostasis. Well, what is homeostasis? Homeostasis is the maintenance of a constant internal environment. So just like we put on something warm when it is cold, or switch to cooler clothes when it is hot. To maintain homeostasis, our bodies does this automatically. So before we take a look at that, let's quickly take a look at the organs involved. So firstly, we'll take a look at the skin. Now it's important to note that the skin has two layers, the epidermis and the dermis. Now the epidermis contains a keratinized outer layer which is waterproof. This is the layer, the topmost layer of your skin, and it's made of dead cells which contain the protein keratin. Beneath the epidermis we find our dermis, which contains the blood supply, the capillaries that supply oxygen and help with the regulation of temperature, as well as sweat glands. So our body functions optimally around 37 degrees Celsius. When our temperature goes too high, the body pushes the temperature down, and when the temperature drops, our body pushes the temperature up to sort of keep it in this narrow range of within 37 degrees Celsius. At 37 degrees Celsius, our enzymatic function and metabolic processes occur optimally, thus our body tries to maintain that temperature. So how does it maintain that temperature? Well, the temperature maintenance regulator, if you want to call it such, is the hypothalamus. And this is situated in the brain, in the middle of the brain actually, roundabout. And let me explain how the hypothalamus regulates temperature. Alright, so when it is cold, or when our internal temperature drops beneath 37 degrees Celsius, our hypothalamus, which is located in our brain, sends signals to our skin to vasoconstrict. What that means is basically the diameter of the arteriole will decrease to allow less blood through to the skin. This way, heat is not lost, heat is saved. Hairs on the skin also stand up, causing what we know as goosebumps. Then the hypothalamus also sends signals to our muscles to contract, and this results in us shivering, which increases our internal temperature. Now on the other hand, when it is warm, or when our body temperature rises above 37 degrees Celsius, the hypothalamus in the brain sends signals again to our skin, and this time the signals tell our arterioles in our skin to vasodilate, which basically means going from this diameter to increasing in a bigger diameter to allow more blood into the skin area. This allows heat to be lost, as blood is high in blood carries our heat. So this helps us to lose heat. And then the hypothalamus also sends signals which result in our sweat glands secreting sweat, and this further increases heat loss via the skin. So when it is warm, our capillaries actually dilate, and when it is cold, our capillaries actually constrict. And this is all in the regulation of temperature. So as you might know, glucose is our primary fuel source. It is one of the most efficient fuels for our body, and our brains also require quite a bit of glucose. That is why you can't concentrate if you are hungry or if you haven't eaten something properly. So when you eat something, your digestive system breaks it down and glucose gets absorbed into your bloodstream. Now your liver and pancreas are very important when it comes to regulating this concentration of glucose in your bloodstream. Because too much glucose in the bloodstream is not good, but too little is also not good. So homeostasis needs to be maintained. There needs to be a constant concentration of glucose in your bloodstream for optimal metabolic processes. So this is how our body maintains homeostasis when it comes to our blood glucose levels. This is the process. We eat food high in glucose. The food goes to our stomach and then to the small intestine. At the small intestine, glucose is absorbed into our bloodstream. Now there's a high blood glucose concentration. The pancreas, or more specifically the island of Langerhans in the pancreas, secretes insulin. The insulin then goes to the liver and signals the liver to use the glucose in the blood, as well as storage in the storage form called glycogen. This normalizes blood glucose levels because we used glucose and we stored glucose, taking it out of the bloodstream. If blood glucose levels fall below normal, glucagon, which is secreted by our pancreas, is released into the blood and signals the liver to break down the glycogen that we stored over here and return it into the blood as glucose. This will result in when the glucose is released from the liver into the blood, and this results in normalized levels of blood glucose. This is how our bodies maintain homeostasis when it comes to our glucose concentration in the blood. So, in your pancreas, there are groups of cells called islands of Langerhans, and these cells secrete two hormones. We've got insulin and we've got glucagon. So how they work is insulin will decrease blood glucose levels to a suitable or optimal level when blood glucose levels spike in the bloodstream. And glucagon, you can think of it as glucose gone. When glucose is low, glucagon push blood glucose up by breaking down stored glycogen in the liver. So in people who have diabetes, their bodies do not respond, they do not produce the insulin needed to bring down blood glucose levels. In a condition called type 1 diabetes mellitus, people are born or have an inborn error. The islands of Langerhans cells do not secrete insulin. There is no insulin production. So when they eat something that's high in sugar, their blood glucose levels spike. But there's nothing to bring the blood glucose levels down to an optimal range. Thus they need to take insulin shots so they need insulin from an external source to bring their insulin levels down to effectively control their blood glucose levels. On the other hand, when their blood glucose levels drop too low, there's a problem because insulin also helps the liver store glucose as glycogen, as we learned in previous lessons. So there's no glycogen to be broken down and to be released as glucose into the bloodstream, thus pushing the blood glucose levels up to normal. That is why patients with diabetes have to have small snacks frequently throughout the day, and they often have to carry something sweet with them to help when they start feeling their blood glucose levels drop, to push it back up by eating something sweet. That's it for today, guys. Good luck with the studying and go and get those good marks.